Are you protecting your energy or just kind of avoiding responsibility? That's the question at the center, at the heart of the quiet quitting movement or quiet quitting debate. Because somewhere in between toxic hustle culture and the solid or the soft life movement, we've created a generation of people that cannot tell the difference between healthy boundaries and elaborate explanations and justifications for doing the bare minimum work. And it's time we got absolutely honest about which one you're actually doing. Welcome back to Huddle Psychology, where we get uncomfortably real about the stuff going on in your head. I'm Rahul Nair, and we are here to decode the psychology behind why we do the weird things we actually do. Okay, so let's set this up. Quiet quitting has become quite the workplace buzzword of our generation. On one side, you've got companies, employers, calling it entitled laziness. And on the other hand, you've got employees or workers calling it revolutionary or radical self care. But like most viral workplace trends and concepts, the truth is far more nuanced than either extreme wants to admit or wants to care to admit. So here's what I am seeing: people using boundary language to justify mediocrity while simultaneously burning out because they never really set real boundaries in the first place. Others are genuinely protecting their mental health, but somehow feeling guilty about it because capitalism, our culture, has convinced them their self-worth is equal to their productivity. The question so isn't whether you should work yourself to death. Obviously, you shouldn't. The question is, are you setting conscious boundaries based on your values, or are you quiet quitting because you're avoiding the harder work of either improving your situation or leaving it? Okay, so let's break down what's actually happening psychologically. Quiet quitting at its core is describing about is all about the minimum required by your job description and nothing more. Quiet quitting is about doing the absolute minimum required by your JD and not doing a bit more. No extra projects, no staying late, no going above and beyond, just exactly what you're paid to do. But this behavior can come from two very psychologically different places, two different psychological places. Conscious boundaries, on the one hand, this is when you are intentionally managing your energy and time because you have decided consciously that work is just a part, just one part of a balanced life. You show up fully during your work hours, do quality work, but maintain clear separation between work and your personal life. This is psychologically healthy and actually leads to sustainable long term performance. On the other hand, quiet quitting, seen as passive resistance in one way, is when you're actually unhappy with your job or employer, and instead of addressing it head on and directly, or even leaving your organization, you withdraw effort as a form of silent protest. This is psychologically exhausting. It is psychologically exhausting because you're stuck in a state of chronic resentment while avoiding the discomfort of confrontation or change. Okay, so here's how you tell the difference. Conscious boundaries involve clear communication about your availability and your capacity. It involves quality work during agreed upon hours, no guilt about work life balance or work life separation. It involves a willingness to occasionally flex when absolutely or genuinely required. And it certainly involves active engagement during work hours. And passive resistance, on the other hand, looks like doing the absolute bare minimum out of resentment. Constant complaints about work, but no action towards making any kind of sustainable change. Using boundary language to somehow justify lack of effort or quality. Feeling guilty or defensive about your work habits. And finally, you are likely to be mentally checked out during your work hours. The psychology behind why this matters is that passive resistance keeps you stuck. It keeps you stuck in victim mode where you feel powerless, but not only you feel powerless, but you also avoid taking responsibility. Conscious boundaries, on the other hand, put you in agency mode where you're making active choices about how you spend your time and your energy at your workplace. So, how do you ensure you're setting boundaries rather than quiet quitting? Let me offer you three reality checks. Number one, the clarity test. Have you actually communicated your boundaries, or are you just silently withdrawing? Conscious boundaries require clear communication, telling your manager what you can and cannot do, can and cannot take on, being upfront about your availability, having honest conversations about workload. If you're just doing less without saying anything, that's not boundaries, unfortunately. That's passive aggression. The second strategy or reality check that I'd like to offer you is the quality check. Are you doing excellent work within your defined scope? Or are you doing just mediocre work as a form of protest? Conscious boundaries mean showing up fully during the time you've committed, then disconnecting completely outside those hours. If your actual work quality is suffering because you hold resentment inside you or because you are resentful, then you are quiet quitting. And third reality check that I'd like to offer you is the values alignment assessment. Does your current approach align with your actual values about work and life? Some people genuinely like or value a minimal work life balance and prioritize other areas of life, and that's perfectly all right. Some people genuinely value a minimal work life balance, and that's okay. Others are using boundary language while actually feeling unfulfilled inside and disconnected. And that's a sign that something needs to change. And here's what's actually really important: the workplace psychology revolution happening right now is necessary. The old model of unlimited availability and hustle culture is unsustainable and ultimately harmful to your physical and mental health. But the solution is not to swing to the opposite extreme of minimal effort, um, and not being honest about it, or holding maximum resentment. The solution is conscious choices. Either finding work that's worth your full engagement and attention, or being intentional about treating your work as a means to an end while you invest your energy elsewhere. But both are valid, but they require honest choices. It requires honesty about your choices. And let's also talk about one other thing. We also need to talk about privilege for a second. The ability to quiet quit assumes you have job security in the first place. You have financial security and stability in the first place. Many people don't have the luxury of doing the bare minimum because, quite literally, they are one performance review away from losing their income, from losing their job. So, if you can quiet quit without consequences, recognize that it is a privilege. And if it is so, then you should perhaps consider using it more intentionally rather than as rebellion. So, having said that, here's your homework for the week. Get honest with yourself about whether you're setting boundaries or really avoiding conflict or confrontation. Ask yourself, if I had my ideal job tomorrow, would I still approach my work this way? Or am I quite quitting because I'm unhappy here? Your answer tells you whether you need boundaries or you need better work. And if you're genuinely setting conscious boundaries, stop feeling guilty about it. You don't need to feel guilty about setting healthy boundaries. Your worth is not determined by how much you sacrifice for your employer. So, having said that about the topic of quiet quitting, consider these questions and reflect on them. Next week, we dive into the paradox of choice. Why having infinite options in modern life is actually making us really, really miserable, and how decision fatigue is quietly destroying our mental health. It's about to get really real about why too much freedom feels like paralysis. Well, that is next week. Coming back to quiet quitting, the topic this week, drop a comment. Are you quiet quitting, setting conscious boundaries? Or are you still trying to figure it out, figure out the difference? Let's have an honest conversation about workplace psychology without the extreme takes. And as always, don't forget to check our blog at huddlepsychology.substack.com. And if you'd like to talk about any of the topics on a one on one basis, hit me up at rahul at huddlepsychology.com. And I also want to leave you with one other information. I released my first book a couple of months back. It's called Already Home, Advaita Vedanta for Everyday Living. It's my first effort in writing a book. It is, as the title suggests, about Advaita Vedanta for everyday living. And it is my effort to simplify and make Vedanta as accessible to as many people as possible. So I'd be grateful to have your patronage and support. Do visit any of the Amazon marketplaces. It is available in Kindle format across all Amazon marketplaces, and in the US and the UK, it's also available in the paperback edition. So I look forward to your patronage and support with my book. So do visit the sites and marketplaces and buy my book and support me. So, having said that, until next time, keep huddling and keep growing. Ciao for now.